2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Thirty seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Oh, yes, it is. Here we are, ready to rock and roll for another one, my friends. It is your post-Monday celebration, the greatest day of the entire week. Holy cow, man. Hold on here. We are really loud in my ears. My headphones were blaring. Whoever was in here prior to me, man, they were deaf beyond belief. So, nonetheless, so great to have you. It is the Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hooser on your post-Monday celebration, broadcasting out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Well, we are officially open for business, I guess. The federal government being able to temporarily keep the government from being shut down after 2 days of absolute shenanigans. Democrats holding out and wanting to reform ICE, Department of Homeland Security funding, where we will now apparently discuss reforms in ICE and where that DHS funding is going and what they're doing. So we'll get to that in just a minute, but it is a post-Monday, so that is a good day, right? As we broadcast across the country, doing our thing.
Do it live!
Like we do every single day here on the program. Tim Graham will be on the show. He's the executive editor for MRC and Newsbusters at the bottom of the hour. FCC cracking down on some of the equal opportunity, especially for candidates, the political opposition, and the political bias that we're seeing on TV viewership with The View, with Jimmy Kimmel, some of these late-night TV shows, and the FCC reforming some of their guidance and guidelines of what they need to be doing to follow some of those equal opportunity air times. For those that don't know, radio and TV align. Now, for network TV, it's a little bit different. That's why for network radio, it's also a little bit different. But for your local markets, local radio stations, and local radio shows, you kind of have to give what they call equal opportunity, equal time, equal airtime. If you interview one candidate on one side, you have to at least offer the opportunity for the other side to come on as well. And now networks are a little bit different. I'm not the expert on these, although from my understanding, when it comes to like a syndicated network for both TV and for radio, that they don't quite follow the same types of guidelines as they do for a local market, where you have a local host on TV or on radio offering for candidates to come on. You have to at least offer it to the other side as well. Now, they can turn it down, but that's their own prerogative. You at least have to have the open conversation. So that being said, networks are a little bit different, but the FCC apparently wanting to clamp down on some of that partisanship that's going on with The View and these late night talk shows where they pretty much don't have any left-wingers on at all whatsoever, and we're going to change that. So what could that happen? They could lose their minds, man. If you have a conservative on The View, man, they will...
We're all gonna die because of you!
They'll lose their minds. Now, for radio, we're a little bit different because most shows take phone calls. We do read messages. We try to have that equal opportunity and have a little bit of a debate, but radio is a little bit different, so we'll break down all those rules coming up at the bottom of the hour. That being said, aren't you happy federal government not shut down anymore? The day and a half of us dying in the streets without government services for us. Oh, wait, that's right. No, that didn't happen. But we did shut down for a day and a half, and now we are back at it. So well done, government. You did something. Congratulations.
We did it! We did it! Yay!
And I'm sure politicians feel very good about themselves for that one, which means Speaker Mike Johnson said that now they were able to at least get it through with 20 Democrats voting for this reformed adjusted bill that came out of the U.S. Senate. And now Donald Trump, within the last hour, held a live stream out of the White House, officially signed it in the Oval Office.
For some reason, many of the House Democrats wanted to shut the government down again and inflict pain on the American people. But I'm glad to tell you, I'm happy to report, Republicans got the job done. Our majority worked together, and we got the bills over the line.
Now, I have good news and bad news for you. Which one do you want to hear first? The good news is that we were able to fund most of the government, 97% of the federal government, 98%, whatever it is, to the end of the fiscal year. So the budgetary process, unlike kicking the can down the road until March, April, the last couple of months where we're like, oh, we'll just do an omnibus package, it's done. So we can restart the process over and we can begin working on the budgetary process for 2027. That'll start in October of this year. So we have what? We're at the beginning of February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. We have 8 months. I had to do the math here. Guess I could have counted either. We have 8 months until we start this entire cycle over. And the appropriations process, the Ways and Means committees, they're already probably, hopefully, working on the upcoming budgetary process for next year and starting to look at what else we can cut, what we can reform, and what we can look at streamlining or cutting out of the federal government. We still are lingering in that $7 trillion federal budget range, which is still post-COVID funding that we don't need to be in. So we have a lot to cut. We have a lot to reform, and I really hope that now that the process is done, we can hit the reset button and start this cycle all over again. The bad news is that last 1.5% to 2% of the federal budget for the Department of Homeland Security is still up in the air because that portion of the federal budget is only funded for the next 2 weeks, which means we could see the lack of funding for ICE again. We could see the lack of funding for FEMA again. We could see a lot of the emergency services and Homeland Security measures be stalled unless we reform something, because now Democrats got their way without the SAVE Act, by the way. We talked about it on the program yesterday about the SAVE Act potentially being attached to the bill in the House side, which means it would have had to gone back to the Senate again, and then we would have had the whole deal with the government shutdown before it could go to the president's desk. That did not happen, and that was the bad news. They are working on that apparently now, where according to Mike Johnson, they say that is the next priority for them, but that was not attached into this appropriations process. What the conversation looks like now is, what does the reform potentially look like for the Department of Homeland Security? Democrats, some Democrats, radicalized Democrats, want to see the ending in the abolishment of ICE. Others want to see the reforming of ICE. Others want, I don't know what they want, but they feel like they have the political mojo now because they were able to strong-arm Republicans into reforming and only allow Homeland Security funding for the next 2 weeks because they feel like they got away with something. Chuck Schumer has now, congratulations, Republicans, I will say, you have now officially allowed Democrats and Chuck Schumer specifically to redeem himself after that month-and-a-half shutdown that we saw back in October and November of last year. We should have held it the way it was and said, sorry about your luck. If you want to reform it, look at it for the appropriations process going into 2027, and then moved on beyond that. But we didn't. We allowed them, we caved, and now we have this temporary bill for the next 2 weeks for DHS. Oh, by the way, this was in the White House with Donald Trump in the Oval Office today, where a reporter's asking, now that we've done this temporarily, what do those conversations look like, and what could we see with changes within the Department of Homeland Security?
Agree to any specifics?
None. Well, we have a secure border. In fact, we have 9 months now where nobody has come into our country illegally. Now, I don't know if I can believe that, because, you go from 25 million people to nobody, but the Democrats do that. They're leaning left, the people that do that report. And for 9 months, they have said nobody has come into it. It is a strong, great border. We do have people coming into our country, but they're all coming in legally. You take a look at that and look at what was going on a year and a half ago on our border, where criminals were coming in, drug dealers were coming in, people from mental institutions were coming in. The worst, they say the worst, I don't even know if I like the term, but the worst of the worst was coming into our country. And now we have virtually our country it's beautiful to see. Even if you go down, some of you, I think, were down there a couple of weeks ago, and you couldn't believe it, right? Because you were there.
All right, so real quickly, I know he talks about all the great success down at the southern border, which is true. We should applaud him for that. That's pretty awesome. We've done a lot of groundwork at the southern border, and he has a great success, unlike we've seen in a very long time. So well done. Well done, President Trump. Yeah. We've done that, and Border Patrol is part of the funding for Department of Homeland Security. So if you end Department of Homeland Security funding, you're not only defunding ICE, you're not only defunding FEMA at a time when we're trying to rebuild and recover after a crazy winter storm that hit the entire southern portion of the country, you're also defunding Border Patrol and border security in general, which means we could see a slight influx of people, and then they could be, Donald Trump's wall isn't as secure as what he says. Like, that's the kind of politics that we're up against and trying to play against right now. And that's kind of weird to me. So right now there is no idea, at least from his mindset, what these, I guess, negotiations could look like for ICE, Immigration Custom Enforcement, rounding people up. And the ones that are bad, by the way, the criminal, illegal aliens. We don't know what those conversations are looking like, but we've at least funded it for the next 2 weeks. And now Speaker Mike Johnson says, well, that's cool, but now the next focus is going to be what is going to be the SAVE Act. And that's where...
What's trending today?
That's where we go to with our What's Trending story of the day, because I'm glad we're focused on it while we're trying to deal with this whole shenanigans. Do we reform uniforms for ICE? Do we put body cams on ICE? Do we make them take the face masks off of ICE? What's the future of that agency look like? Then we look at the SAVE Act that, in my opinion, probably should have been attached to the appropriations bill. We always cram a whole lot of omnibus stuff in there as well. The porculus, gotta pass it to see what's in it, right? There's so much garbage in there we don't know, but we couldn't pass it with the SAVE Act in there. And that's a little strange to me.
Well, look, we are going to be fighting for the SAVE Act. And I'll tell you why this is so important. We've passed it twice in the House, and we will pass it again. The SAVE Act just simply says you have to have verification of citizenship to register to vote. That's about a 90-10 issue on many of the polls in this country. And we're going to enhance it by what the president calls the Save America Act. And so it would be proof of citizenship to register to vote and voter ID, which is also about an 80 or 90% issue on the polling nationwide, depending on who you talk to.
All right, so that's the next plan. And John Thune says that he doesn't have the votes on it in the Senate right now, which means we have to have a conversation about the filibuster on whether we move forward with trying to end the filibuster and cram the Republican agenda down the throats of the Democrats, which is what many have been calling to do for a long time, because it's exactly what they would do to us when it's a bill that's really, really, really important. And just imagine for a second, if we do end the filibuster, I know that we usually don't like to. That's kind of the safeguard. At the same time, nothing really gets done. And usually that's a good thing, right? Because most pieces of legislation that come out of the federal government are not good bills. It's always a way to increase your taxes, increase government spending, or can increase regulations over the private sector and you as an individual taking your rights away. So when government does nothing, that's usually a good thing. And we're mostly okay with that. But for now, our goal, Republicans' goals, to try and go into a midterm election is to codify the Trump agenda, to ram down our agenda that Democrats don't like, and maybe it's time that we pass the ending of the filibuster. That's another conversation for a little bit later, but we need to look at the SAVE Act, especially. Voter ID is kind of common sense. The majority of the polls across the board say that the majority of Americans actually support this. And while they say it's racist to make sure people prove who they are, that's a little weird and to me a little bit derogatory to say that people are too dumb or too poor or too stupid to figure out how to get a state ID in order to validate who they are to go and actually vote. But Donald Trump mentioned that during the speech in the Oval Office this afternoon as well, about what he called the federalizing of elections. Now, I want to be, I know what you're saying. Wait a second, Andy, we're federalizing elections? No, we're not. And I want to be very clear about that because that is the terminology that he used. We have not used this segment in a while, but it's time to bring back our...
What Donald Trump really meant to say.
Because he's not trying to federalize elections. He brought that up. A question was from the media that asked him about federalizing elections, and we have to take a break in a minute, so we'll play it when we come back. But he talks about wanting free and fair elections and how we just have to validate people are who they say they are going to the ballot box. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, constitutionally, the only thing that mentions about the stipulation about requirements in order to vote, at least in federal elections, is the fact that you're a U.S. citizen and you're abiding by the rule of law because you abide by the jurisdiction of the laws of the land and that you're a U.S. citizen. That's it. Now, right now, according to the Constitution, there is no stipulation on how to verify that. Right now, it's up to the states. States aren't doing a good enough job of it. So therefore, it is up to the federal government to kind of set those guidelines to mandate that it's enforcing the one stipulation that makes people actually have to abide by in order to vote in elections in the United States. We'll cover some of that when we come back around the corner. Stay here for the Voice of Reason.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
When America builds, the world follows. Our energy powered the 20th century. We've set the standard for generations, and we never waited for permission. But now, we're being held back. Outdated rules, endless delays. Without permitting reform, Washington's red tape is slowing us down while other nations race ahead. It doesn't have to be this way. We can clear the way for energy that's affordable, reliable, and built right here. Because what's built here is felt here. Lower costs, more jobs, stronger communities. That's what permitting reform makes possible. Energy didn't just shape our country, it powered the American dream. And with our innovation, we can lead the 21st century. Congress has a choice. Build America's energy future or risk falling behind. Tell Congress, pass permitting reform now.
Miss any part of the show? Well, don't worry. Now's your chance to go find the podcast and listen to as much of the Voice of Reason as you'd like. As the show continues to grow all across the nation with great radio affiliates, we also continue to grow as one of the top conservative podcasts, ranked 5th on the MillionPodcast.com Best 50 Conservative Leadership Podcasts in the nation, and number 1 on FeedSpot.com's 30 Best Conservative Talk Shows in the country. The show continues to grow each and every day. Just find us on any of your favorite podcasting sites at The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser. Hey, did you know that you can have multiple different networks on one single smartphone? Well, with Patriot Mobile, you can. It's time for you to sign up for the Patriot Mobile primary phone plan with plans as low as $15 a month, where you can have 2 numbers and 2 networks on one single phone. And right now, if you sign up using the promo code REASON, you can get an entire month absolutely free. It's the Patriot Mobile One plan. 1 phone, 2 numbers, and 2 networks. And it's all at patriotmobile.com/reason. Again, patriotmobile.com, and use the promo code REASON.
What fuels the freedom to dream bigger? How did 2 guys in a cramped California garage reimagine the phone and put the power of the universe at our fingertips? At Americans for Prosperity, we believe greatness can happen anywhere. We just need freedom and the opportunity to make it real. But today, with a rigid system stifling progress, limiting creativity, and holding us back. That's why at AFP, we offer solutions that tackle the most critical challenges facing our country, so there's nothing standing in the way of America's next breakthrough. Because what we build today doesn't just shape the future, it defines it. How will you be defined? Take your first step today with Americans for Prosperity.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Switch today and get 1 month of service absolutely free by going to patriotmobile.com/reason.
When reason meets radio. This is the voice of reason with Andy Hooser.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Common sense, and that just shows how out of touch the other side is. That's CNN, by the way. That's not Fox News. That's not that's not Newsmax. That's not One American News Network. That's CNN that's reporting that number. Vast majority of all demographics, because the argument from the other side has, of course, been that voter ID is racist because the black folk and the Hispanic folk and whoever else, they're too poor and too stupid to know how to get their IDs, their state-issued IDs, in order to validate who they are for an election season. But no more. We have grown up. We've figured it out. We're officially big kids, right?
I'm a big kid now.
Now I know. Sorry, I cracked myself up on that one. As the majority of Americans support the idea of voter ID, Chuck Schumer literally just posted a tweety out there that said the SAVE Act would impose Jim Crow-style restrictions on voting. It would be dead on arrival in the Senate. So that's where Democrats are. That's how out of touch they are. And it's absolutely insane. We'll get back to that in just a minute. I want to tell you about my friends over at Lean. As you know, by the time the average person hits the age of 60 years old, they've lost and regained hundreds of pounds. It's called weight cycling. Half of Americans do it. You lose about 10 pounds, you put it back on, maybe add a little bit more. It's really tough on your body, and it's really bad for your organs as well, and I know it leaves you really, really frustrated. The bottom line is most people need help losing weight, and here's a great way to do it with non-prescription Lean. It was created by doctors. It's an oral supplement. It's not an injection like the GLP-1s, and the science is really cool. I actually just ordered my restocking because I've been taking it since the beginning of the year, and I needed some more, so I just reordered mine today. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar. It helps control your appetites and your cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting it to energy, and when you burn fat, it helps keep the weight off for good. If you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep it off, add Lean to your diet and your exercise lifestyle. Right now, for my listeners here on the show, get 20% off when you enter the code REASON. That's REASON at checkout when you go to takelean.com. Again, takelean.com. Use the promo code REASON at checkout and get that 20% off. Do it right now. All right, so there's a segment we have not used on this program in a while, and it's called
What Donald Trump Really Meant to Say.
That's right. Is Donald Trump has meant to the idea of federalizing elections to make sure that they are fair and balanced. Now, that is not what he wants to do. That's not what he's talking about, but this is what he said in the Oval Office just a short time ago.
I want to see elections be honest, and if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, you know, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, I think the federal government, when you see crooked elections, and we had plenty of them, and by the way, we had them last time, but go to 2020 and look at the facts that are coming out. Rigged, crooked elections. If we have areas, take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Take a look at Philadelphia.
All right, so it's saying essentially things are not running the way they're supposed to. Now, he knows better than anybody else. The federal government is not the place that's going to make it more efficient. He wants the bottom line. What's the purpose? What's the message Donald Trump's trying to get across? The message he's trying to get across is the election system is broken because we've allowed a lot of shenanigans to play out, and it's, according to him, is rigged elections or has allowed a lot of malarkey, as Joe Biden would say, in the electoral process. The one stipulation, because constitutionally it says the states run the elections, right? For local, statewide, federal elections, the states run those. The local secretary of states in those states run those. That's the way they go. How do we fix it? We go back to, again, the one constitutional rule that you must be a U.S. citizen and that you abide by the rule of law and the jurisdiction thereof. If the states won't abide by that, that's where the federal government can step in with national voter ID to check that box to say they're following that rule, and the states continue to handle the rest.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left finds new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back. And that's where we can help. Head to our website at HooserReason.com. There you can find our latest blog discussing topical issues of the day. Let us know your thoughts on current events with different surveys and chat rooms. And keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Plus, when you head to the website, you can always get great deals and different offers from all of our great radio partners. Finally, if you want more of the show, you can find our podcasts with all of our great episodes and your favorite guests. And make sure to check out the latest Voice of Reason infomercials and maybe some other special content. And it's all because of you being part of the Hoosier-holic family. Let's continue to fight for conservative common sense principles together by going to HooserReason.com. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yeah, welcome back into the program. Great to have you today for a post-Monday celebration. Greatest day of the entire week, setting that tone for the rest of the week, trying to cram that 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag, trying to rebrand the millennial generation one radio listener at a time with great radio stations all over the country for sure. By the way, if you want the podcast, which we saw a really big jump today in downloads, which is awesome. Thank you for that. You can find us on any of your favorite podcasting sites, just typing in The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser on any of those sites. Find us, subscribe to us, and we appreciate that very, very much. We'll get back to the idea of the federalizing elections. That's not what Donald Trump's trying to talk about, although he says it. We haven't had one of those weird Trump-isms in a while, but we go to
what Donald Trump really meant to say.
Yeah, we'll continue to break that down later on with the federalizing of elections and what that means later on. But let's talk about, for just a moment, the world of media. Yeah.
What's trending today?
Which, can I just say, let's go back to the Grammys for just this past weekend. It was wild. Of course, everybody was the whole anti-ICE, Billie Eilish or whatever the hell her name is. I don't listen to her. I don't even know who she is, so I don't really care. I don't follow mainstream. As you know, we do something completely different on this program. And in fact, I have to give major props. For the first time that I can remember, like ever, we actually had a metal band opening up for the Grammys. That was pretty cool, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. I know. It's screeching your ears right now, right? But I don't care. That was... Well done. Well done. That's... All right. I know. You're going crazy. That was a band named Spirit Box. I'm actually a big fan of them. I enjoy it. That was part of their new album, and their new album's hard. She usually does a lot more clean vocals and singing than she does the harsh stuff. But that was pretty cool. Outside of that, of course, it was all the anti-ICE stuff. Jelly Roll had a great comment with his religious faith. People apparently didn't like that or something. So media... We don't usually follow the mainstream. Why? Because there's a narrative. There's a political agenda to it, and they like to cram it down your throats left and right. But is that about to change? That's where we're going to go to as we go to our...
Let's go to the Hoosier Media Hotline.
That's right. Really happy to have on the program. He's the executive editor for Newsbusters. Back on the show, by the way, here, Mr. Tim Graham. Tim, how are you, my friend?
Very good. Yes. Billie Eilish, my term for her today is... whisper singing fashion nightmare.
Yeah, I can honestly say I know none of her music, so I can't tell you what she does. I was at least happy with the whole Spirit Box thing, right? They at least throw in a little bit of a new genre.
Yes, that's the very opposite of Billie Eilish. Yes. Billie Eilish did the big ballad for the Barbie movie.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, that puts it into perspective then. Of course, the poppy thing that, all the teen boppers really go for. It's really no shock of what we saw there, right? We had Trevor Noah taking shots at Donald Trump, going after ICE. All these celebrities were out there attacking ICE, attacking Donald Trump. It's really not that much of a shocker of what we saw on Sunday night, is it?
No, I think what's sad about it is, obviously they have a certain amount of time to make their acceptance speech before somebody starts cutting them off. But, how profound is it to get up on stage and go, F ICE? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, you're a regular Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
With your Gettysburg, F-word address. Billie Eilish also said, no illegals on stolen land. And then everybody was like, Billie Eilish has a $3 million mansion on land that used to be indigenous.
Yes.
It's like they don't care. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take their arguments to their logical conclusion because they're not arguments. It's like reading off a bumper sticker and expecting applause.
Well, you know what? Nowadays, that was one of the worst things that ever happened with social media is if you can have a 30-character tweet with a bumper sticker argument, you're now somehow an expert on the issues and people pay attention to you. So that's the kind of world that we live in, and it's really unfortunate that we have people that really base their political beliefs on what celebrities say because of those bumper sticker arguments. But, Tim, it sounds like that maybe could be changing a little bit after the announcement from the FCC about equal opportunity rules and allowing candidates to come on and actually talk about these issues. Could we see, and I say this marginally in air quotes here, but could we see a marginally fairer news outlet or media cycle that we see compared to today?
Well, I think what this FCC ruling was basically to underline that in the 90 days before an election, and I would guess that would be primaries as well as general elections, in the 90 days before the election, if you put on one candidate, you should feel obligated to put on the other. So I guess in a primary, if you put on one Democrat, you should probably bring on the other.
Right.
So if you bring on Jasmine Crockett from Texas, then you have to turn to James Tallarico. But, you know, we all know, we've studied this. When you look at the late night comedy shows, it's a parade of Democratic politicians.
Right.
You know, it's like 150 Democratic politicians coming in spouting talking points. And the only things you can really count as a Republican rebuttal is Mrs. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or something. You know, you know, The View, The Colbert Show, all of these shows are dominated by Democrats. And I think what the FCC chairman's trying to say is, you know, you're going to have to actually factor in there that we might say Elizabeth Warren's opponent should get an interview as well. And, of course, we all know just because you grant them equal time doesn't mean you will grant them equal respect. There is no line in there where it says, well, you have to be nice.
Right.
Because they're never nice to Republicans unless they're fake Republicans like Liz Cheney.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's very true. Now, they don't. The last time I saw any kind of Republican or conservative on something like The View was when, I think it was a couple of years ago, when Donald Trump Jr. went on, when he had his book triggered, ironically going on The View and triggering the heck out of those ladies as they were angry at him. But they don't do that very often. And as you mentioned, RFK Jr.'s wife, I was not aware of that actress that was actually RFK Jr.'s wife. Did not know that was his wife. That kind of shocked me as well.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously on The View, the most recent one is Marjorie Taylor Greene because she went off on Donald Trump. So then she was on the show, and they all asked her to become a Democrat.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess you could say they had a Republican on, but she was only acceptable once she decided, I'm out of here. I don't like Trump. I don't like, you know, what he says or does.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, you can come on then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. The media coverage, and you guys have ran these reports year over year over year of all the negative coverage of Donald Trump, but, I mean, is it still floating in the high 90 percentile range of how much they go after him?
I'm sure. You know, we just did a study about ICE because we can also sense it there, where the coverage of ICE is dramatically 93% negative, which I guess, you know, any of us who are watching the news know that that's pretty much the case. And you know what happens is some of these people will say, well, geez, Tim, we don't trust you guys. You voted for Trump, so we don't trust you when you say, is it positive, is it negative? And it's like, no. You could sit a Democrat down and go, when they compare Trump to Hitler, is that negative?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of obvious. Here's the thing. I don't think they even deny it. They don't deny being biased against Donald Trump because, I mean, you have literally Joe Scarborough on the Morning Joe saying that Donald Trump was going to eliminate the media and throw his political enemies in Guantanamo Bay and execute them and so on and so forth. I mean, they openly admit the fact that, yeah, we may be a little bit biased against Donald Trump, but the rest of the time we're totally fair and balanced, right?
Yeah, I think this is the whole point, is when we have a study and say that coverage of Trump was 90% negative on these evening newscasts, it doesn't really capture the intensity of the negativity.
Right.
It just says it's negative. But, yes, this is also the same Joe Scarborough who went around in 2024 going, this is the best Joe Biden ever, and F you if you can't handle the truth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he was totally sound of mind. There was no issues whatsoever. Again, these aren't the droids you're looking for. I find it pretty hilarious. We're talking with Tim Graham, executive editor for MRC, and with Newsbusters. As you guys continue to monitor and watch what the media is doing, especially now you mentioned these ICE protests, have they come out at all releasing some of the video of this last guy, this Alex Preddy that was shot this past couple weekends ago? Have they come out and actually showed the videos of him harassing, spitting on ice, kicking in the tail lights? I mean, have they showed any of this stuff, or has it just been the one clip when he's shot?
No, we would have expected them not to run it, but they did. But here's the weird thing. Our Curtis Houck was looking at that, and it's like, you know, ABC and CBS were running this clip of him fighting or whatever outside the car, and they show his leg starting to be elevated, and they cut out before he actually kicks up the taillight. On NBC, you see him kick out the taillight, but the reporter, doing the audio never says, hey, look at that. He kicked out the taillight. They show it, but they don't describe it. And this is the whole point, is that they wanted to say that this man was a peaceful protester.
Yeah.
They wanted to say Renee Good was a peaceful protester. These people were not peaceful. They were not protesting. They were not legal observers. They were not witnesses. They were getting in the way of ICE protests and threatening people's lives.
Exactly.
You know, the guy who shot Renee Good had been previously run over by a protester, another peaceful protester. And the problem we have is, in our news media today, they simply do not care if an ICE agent gets run over. That is not news to them. So J.D. Vance comes out, the vice president, and says this guy had 20, 30 stitches in his leg from the last time he got run over.
Right.
Well, that's the only way you're going to hear it. And that soundbite probably didn't make the network news, but you don't have that context and that perspective that there's such a thing as peaceful protest. That is not what these people are doing.
No.
They are trying to get in the middle and do what they call a de-arrest. They're trying to separate law enforcement and the illegal alien.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really insane. Tim, hang on the line. We got to take a hard break here. It is unfortunate, but that's the narrative that's gotten out there. The media still has that influence somehow to win people over, which is why we're seeing this government shutdown that ended this afternoon, but a continued discussion about reforming funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Lots more coming up.
Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Big government is broken. Every year, politicians fail to pass a budget as the deficit continues to grow. Every month, unelected bureaucrats pile on rules no one voted for, strangling our economy. And every day, D.C.'s broken system gets in the way of the American dream. Washington isn't working, and the people pay the price. At Americans for Prosperity, we believe it's time to fix the system. Now, join the movement to make government work.
Oh, hey, sorry, I was just enjoying one of my snacks during the break. You know, it's hard to find good quality snacks without all the unhealthy additives, but I'm here to tell you that problem is over. It's time to enjoy J&S Smoked Snacks. Real cuts of beef, real wood smoke, and real flavor that's crafted in small batches to keep every bag fresh. And with numerous different flavors, you'll never get enough. This is not your average gas station jerky. It's J&S Smoked Snacks. Find them online at jssmokedsnacks.com and tell them I sent you.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Switch today and get 1 month of service absolutely free by going to patriotmobile.com/reason.
What fuels the freedom to dream bigger? Our country's greatest breakthroughs were born from bold ideas and the ability to take one small step forward. At Americans for Prosperity, freedom and opportunity find their defenders. Because our country's next giant leap is just around the corner. Are you ready to step up?
Hey, the live show may be almost over today, but it doesn't have to be for you. As always, enjoy the Voice of Reason with our daily podcast by finding the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser on any of your favorite podcasting sites. Just find us, subscribe, have it automatically downloaded, and listen at your convenience whenever you want to bring some more reason into your day. And a lot of people are doing it. Also, you can always find the video of the show, along with articles, additional commentary, and maybe a few sarcastic remarks by following us on our social media. Stay up to date with everything going on with the show, including upcoming guests, breaking news stories, interesting articles, and maybe some memes. Help us in the ongoing battle with censorship and shadow banning from social media by following us on the social media at Hooser Reason on all of our social media sites. For all the social media links, podcast links, contact information, or just general information of the show, go to our website at HooserReason.com. There you can listen live every day, read our latest monthly blog, find our radio affiliate list, or even listen to our latest infomercials and special content. Plus, you can always reach out to the program by sending me a message on social media, emailing us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com, or sending an email through our website at HooserReason.com. Whether it's content on the show, whether it's a guest that you've liked or disliked, or whether you want to disagree with me, and disagreement's always appreciated. While you're there, make sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter. Each month, you'll get the latest update on the show, updates from the Hooser Media Network, and our latest blog discussing topical issues of the day. Finally, if you want to help support the show, become a member of our Patreon site and help us fight for the cause of truth, reason, and common sense every day, and get more of the same by becoming the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Get additional interviews that sometimes we don't always get to air on the radio. Hear our special segments or even our infomercials before anyone else, and have a chance to chat with other great Hoosier-holics from all over. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, you're not only helping the fight for conservative values, you're helping us get more content and information out through the Hooser Media Network. Find out more information online at HooserReason.com. Lastly, follow and support all of our partners with the show. The Voice of Reason has been growing more and more every year, and it's because of so many great partners helping us get the message out to you. From show partners to local radio affiliates in your area to streaming sites, podcasting sites, and more, we have so many supporters and listeners now than ever before, and we want to thank you. It's time to bring back common sense, and we do it right here every day with the Voice of Reason.
America's safe space for common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yeah, truth, reason, common sense, rationale. It's what we do on this program. We got one segment left as we wrap things up for a post-Monday celebration here on the program. I do want to tell you about my friends over at Americans for Prosperity. Now that we are moving through the appropriations process, President Trump signing the federal budget into law, we funded most of the government until the end of the fiscal year, which is September. So we got like 8 months until we do the cycle all over again, so get ready for that. But we also have two conversations going on in Washington, D.C. The SAVE Act, which according to Senator John Thune, he says, well, I just don't have enough votes for it, so meh, oh well, I guess we're not going to do it. That's not going to fly, because the House said that's what they're working on. Also, health care. And health care reform is a major one, which is why Americans for Prosperity is working hard to let you know the kind of options that you have. I want you to go to the website, personaloption.com. Personaloption.com. You can sign up for free, and you can learn where you can put pressure on your elected officials to make sure that when they do reform health care, that you can get as many options for your family as possible. Your personal health care, your family health care plans, whatever it may be. Let's get rid of this disastrous Obamacare, and let's make sure that we have the options that we want by going to personaloption.com and our friends over at Americans for Prosperity. All right, we're hanging out right now with MRC, the Media Research Center, also Newsbusters, the executive editor, Tim Graham. Tim, speaking of, by the way, the video of Alex Preddy and the vandalizing that he had done to the ICE officers and the kicking into the taillight, I had posted that. I had seen it. I had posted it on our social media, flooded with people saying, no, that's AI generated. It wasn't real. So we paused it for a moment until we saw another angle come out, and we saw that it was legit. The BBC confirmed that they had actually confirmed it as well, and we reposted this stuff. Went crazy on social media. For you guys especially, watching a lot of this unravel with AI and with some of this craziness, is it getting more difficult to decipher what's real and what's not real? Because that's really altering the mindset of how people view some of these issues.
Yeah, I would say that we probably rely too much on video evidence for things. I mean, they have completely overemphasized the protests. They have made the protests the biggest story of all time. Yeah. And, what's comical about that is, here a couple Fridays ago, we had the March for Life in Washington, D.C., where tens of thousands of pro-lifers come out to protest the continuing rate of abortions in the United States, and they all skipped it. They're all like, we don't need to do that. And yet they keep putting these protests, the anti-ICE protests, on the front page with color photos in the New York Times. Oh, my gosh, look at this. And so, but yes, I think one of the things we might say the fact-checking organizations still have a role to play is in saying these AI, this is a real video, this is not a real video, as opposed to what they often do, which is, well, we found the Republicans wrong 85% of the time, and we find the Democrats to be false 30%.
Interesting. Well, those are interesting numbers for them as well. Well, their journalism isn't really up to par. Their investigative journalism isn't where it should be. When we first saw the fraud breakout in Minneapolis in general with the Somali fraud that was broken by the independent journalist Nick Shirley, then we saw the expose from CNN that said, well, we called one of the learning centers or we called one of the daycares and they told us it was valid, so therefore it must be valid because we called them, we talked to a person, and they said that it was just fine. So everything Nick Shirley said was a complete lie because we talked to the person on the phone and they said everything was hunky-dory. That to them was their investigative journalism on the issue, and I found that kind of funny.
Yeah, I think that when your journalism is, let's try to pick apart Nick Shirley, you're not really studying the actual issue at hand. Now, we all understand this is a story that wasn't done. It should have been an issue in the 2024 campaign. So shame on the conservatives that we didn't raise this issue. This was going on under Governor Tim Walz.
Sure.
Massive fraud. And the U.S. attorney there in the Twin Cities was, convicting, I think they're 60 individuals now? And they're overwhelmingly Somali,
right?
Which would underscore why it was not a story because, again, the news media's judgment is we're not against any immigrants and certainly not the black African immigrants.
Well,
maybe if the white South Africans try to come in, that's a scandal. That's like the arrival of the neo-Nazis, but we're not going to question the Somalis.
No.
And so it's, obviously there's very much a double standard there. And they don't really, I think we have to just argue, they don't really care about welfare fraud because they're for welfare.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, people are getting money. Everybody's happy with it. It's the identity politics. The demonization of the other side is more important for them, and Donald Trump is the worst person on the face of the earth. And if he's against it, then we have to be for it. Tim, I appreciate it as always, my friend. It's great information. People are starting to distrust the media left and right, and it's largely because of what you guys do. Thank you for it, my friend. Got to get you back on again soon.
Sure, thanks.
Always a pleasure. Back at it again tomorrow. It's your Wednesday. Until then, we'll see you back on the radio here soon. Bye. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. When I get off the air every day, the battle for me against limited government, censorship, and even unfactual content is far from over. That's why now I'm so happy to say that the Hooser Media Network is giving you more opportunity to catch the voice of reason along with other great shows and podcasts. It's been a long time in the works, and now you can finally enjoy more great content, services, and topical shows. We're the safe space for alternative talk, information, and ideas that the mainstream media absolutely hates. From holistic and alternative